The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, my co-host, AJ Applegarth, in a new spot.
New locale.
New locale, yeah.
Shocking. Shocking that I would change.
But this is actually a new locale, not just you just decided to like tilt the camera differently or something. But yeah.
Oh yeah, no. This is going to be my new zone. Yeah, I decided to pull myself out of the doldrums of not enough egress to get to where I was before, and yeah. So I don't know. You know, I got to change every like 3 months. So
sure, yeah, whatever, man. Do your thing. All right, so tonight we're gonna be talking I want to say pitchers and catchers. I wish we were talking pitchers and catchers, but we're not. Thanks MLB. But catchers and first base position preview. But before we get moving here, you got some business to take care of. Just want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button, that like button, follow, leave those reviews. We greatly appreciate it. And yeah, you know, AJ, I've been dealing with some trades here and there in a couple of my leagues, especially my Dynasty League. And dude, all I can say is how much I really appreciate Fantrax being the site that all of my leagues are run. Most of my leagues are run on, not all of them, most of them. Man, like I love it. Everything's open all the time. I don't have to wait. And we set up the Fantasy Six-Pack series. And, the customization I was able to do there for that, and just to make it a little different than some of the other industry leagues out there. Not because I don't want to just be like a carbon copy of those leagues that are out there. So wanted to make sure we were able to do something different, and that's why we chose Fantrax. And look, I think if you are starting a new league, or you're kind of sick of the same old, you want to change it up, this is the place to go, man. And you should change over right now. Fantrax.com/fantasy six-pack. Go ahead and create your accounts. And it's free, guys. That's the other thing. So the leagues are free. They do have some premium options, but honestly, I've really never had to use them. I've wanted to use like one or two of them, but there's ways around it. So you just don't have to worry about it. So you can do it for free. Again, the customization and the player pool there that they have is just unmatched, in my opinion, compared to the other, standard sites that are out there. But without further ado, let's get moving along here and do our beer of the week.
Beer.
All right, what you got, AJ? I think we both got pretty funny names. Named beer this week. Actually, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Tonight I'm drinking. I think this is the last of my 4-pack of the Shake What Your Mama Gave You.
Nice.
It's a milkshake IPA. Fitting name, of course. It's a limited release from Smut Labs, which is the Smutty Nose Brewing Company. It's delicious. I haven't even cracked this one open yet, but like I said, this is the last of the ones that I bought, so I already.
You already know what
I already know that I like it. So
good stuff. So I am drinking a beer that I picked up for the Super Bowl, and it is from Tripping Animals Brewing. It's in Florida, actually, but the place over in Gaithersburg gets special shipments of this stuff. They make some pretty good can art. So this one's called Mahi Did It. And if you look at it, it's Mahi.
yeah, Mahi.
It's pretty funny. So I got a kick out of that.
Well, they spelled it wrong. It's Mahi. But I get it. I get where they're going.
You get the joke, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for ruining it, man. Jeez.
I'm just trying to shake what my mama gave me.
All right. All right, yeah, I gave this one a 4.5, dude. It's a triple. It's actually an 11%er, so this is probably the only beer I'm drinking on the show this week. It's pretty good. So probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea.
We drink responsibly sometimes.
Sometimes.
Shut up, AJ. We're trying to be nice here. All right, so let's bring in our guest of honor, and I'm super excited to bring in Mr. Todd Zola himself, contributor to ESPN, RotoWire, and of course, Masters Ball. I was just, giving him credit for, giving us access to his tools over there at Masters Ball a couple years ago, and is able to do pretty well in RazSlam because of it. So thanks for having me on, or thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming on, Todd. I'm done.
Have no other beer, dude.
Yeah, no kidding. I've had one sip of this.
That's
Jeez,
why
I am
you cannot
done.
drink anything
No
in
kidding.
double digits anymore.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Todd. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Now, I'm not drinking a beer. You can see I have had beer in the past. But no, if I was drinking a beer, you'd be sad to hear it'd probably be a Stroh's or a Bud Light.
Hey, that's fine, man. We are not.
My generation came from the swill, and it sort of just started the bridge into Sam Adams and Pete's Wicked, were like the two that kind of started the revolution, the micro beer revolution, and I just never got into them. I stayed with the Bud Light, and just it now interferes with some medications I'm on. So hopefully one day I can lose some of this and join you with a Bud Light.
Yeah, hey, we don't discriminate alcohol here, so we allow all kinds.
As you can see, I have a plethora of other friends.
We've had many on here just drinking the Bud Heavies. We're
It's
good.
all good. It's all good.
One of
All
them
right.
being me, so I'll join you, Todd.
That's our producer, Mike. All right, so before we jump into catchers and first base, you run Masters Ball, and to me, Masters Ball, their stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, is sort of geared toward the high stakes players, NFBC type stuff, right?
Well,
for the most part, or they give a lot of tools that's geared
I don't want
toward
to
at
go
least.
down that road, but I mean, I'll be honest. The majority of my early subscribers are NFBC, so I need to cater to that crowd. But I do need to be cognizant of, for every one NFBC player, there's about 1,000 that have never heard of it.
Interesting.
So I need to be cognizant of the other. And I was around before the NFBC started, so I've got some people that pre NFBC. So I sure, I cater to the NFBC because that's my clientele. But I'd like to think that it transcends all leagues.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't saying that's all you do, but I feel like that is a very good niche that you hit on pretty well and do very well. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk a little bit about some NFBC strategies. And, just basically, these leagues are so different. As we kind of talked about offline, I struggle with NFBC. I'm not going to lie. The weekly format kind of crushes me. Just the knowledge in the draft room is unmatched, in my opinion. And it's hard to find a ton of good values. They're 15-team leagues. There's all sorts of stuff. So what is kind of give us like one or two tips, strategies as you enter an NFBC draft?
So the first thing you need to realize about the NFBC is it's its own world. It's its own economy. It's its own entity. Right now, it's kind of, the ADP. All right, Fantrax has enough leagues that they generate. I heard you guys talking Fantrax earlier. They have enough leagues that they can talk about an ADP. But right now, it's when you hear any ADP on the radio, et cetera, it's usually NFBC. But the problem is you can't relate it to your home league. Pitching doesn't go the same. I mean, it's its own. That you just have to keep in mind that it's its own universe. It's its own economy. As such, I think if there's one key, I have a kind of a saying I use, and I'll talk about pitching, but it can be catching too. When we get a little bit later, I say draft the pitching, draft the pitcher, not the round. All right. So there was a time I don't take a pitcher before round 5, 6, 7, insert the round, whatever it is. I don't want to. Even now, I hear that I'm not taking a picture before round 4 or whatever it might be. You can't do that. What you have to do is kind of map out what you want your rotation to look like, and have several different iterations.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if in order to make, if one of the pictures you need to make that map work is going 2 rounds ahead of your ranking, you can't say I'm not taking him. He's overvalued. If you're going to make your map, if you're going to construct your staff with the right tools, the right ERA, the right whip, etc., you just got to draft a pitcher. I haven't ranked in the 5th. I haven't ranked 75th. That's 5th round. I can't take him in the 3rd. Well, if he's the highest rated pitcher and pitching's going, you got to take him in the 3rd. So in other words, you just have to read the room, and that's it's just a different room. And you'll talk to someone that said, "Oh, I got Emmanuel Clase in the 3rd." Someone else will, "Geez, I got him in the 5th." It's just it's just a different room, and one wasn't right or wrong. It was just that's what that room. You have to read the room, and that's, as we kind of talked about, all these people writing about NFBC. The best teachers' experience. Unfortunately, it's money. But they're depending upon one's means, and there's cheap best ball drafts that emulate NFBC. One can get it done, but that's it. The one piece of advice that I give is, the ADP. You just go with. Go with your list. ADP is a guide. It's not a ranking list.
No, 100% agree. One other follow-up question to that, and you mentioned the pitchers, and the reason why I have the follow-up is because you see people posting drafts all over Twitter, right? And you see like, oh, this is a crazy start. This is a not crazy bad, but just it's different, right? It's something they've never seen before. And, last year we started seeing pocket aces a lot, right? Pocket 2 pitchers, 2 ace pitchers, right? To start the drafts. And that's, of course, a continued trend this year. But we're also seeing relievers, like those top-end closers, really get pushed up the board this year, I feel like. And I've even seen people start, their drafts with 2 of those top guys, or 2 of their first 4 picks were some of those top guys. Is that something you agree with?
I understand it. I'm not going down that road. Okay. I'm not willing. Now, again, we're talking about NFBC. There's several different NFBC formats. The one that is most prevalent now is Draft Champions, which is draft and hold. So you cannot, use the waiver wire to pick up your saves in season.
Gotcha.
That pushing closers up a bit.
That makes sense.
But even so, I'm still not willing to invest the opportunity cost of a stud closer in the 2nd or 3rd round when I could be getting my starting pitcher or a stud bat. I might not hit on a closer at the end. I may be burning my money, but I think I have a better chance to do even better if I am able to hit on my closer in the 12th or in the 13th and the 15th round.
Absolutely.
And that's just my way of approaching it. I don't think it's right or wrong. It's just I'm not going to give up on a potential starting pitcher or a stud bat in the 2nd or 3rd when I can happen upon just as many saves in the 10th, 11th, and 12th round. And that what I'll do then is I'll just ping the teams and just try to get 4 or 5 guys that potentially could close, but they also are useful in a non-closing situation. That's the other key to this, especially in this environment where pitchers aren't going as far. Middle relievers are important, even if they aren't getting saves. I will Andrew Kittredge, for instance, players that you're going to keep in your lineup anyway. I'm all over that, and I'll try to double tap. I'm trying to think of an example of a team where you get both of the potential Detroit, get Gregory Soto and get Michael Fulmer. So you get kind of a discount on both, and you just hope one ends up closing. Now, Fulmer's a better pitcher, so Soto could be a wasted pick. But if it turns out that Fulmer closes and you get him in the 21st, you're not so mad about getting Soto in the 14th. You're not so mad about wasting it if you've got a top 10 closer. So that's the way I'm going to approach it. Now, In the fab leagues, everybody thinks that the closers are going to slide back down. The middle range will. The upper closers are going to stay elevated. They usually jump up from in the main event, the NFBC main event, the overall competition they have. The closers usually continue to get accelerated. I don't think they can get more accelerated. I think they'll stay where they are, but I do think that some of the middle tiers may fall a little bit. But yeah, I'm not willing to pay the price of a Liam Hendricks and Josh Hader and Emmanuel Clase. I'm just
They're
not
going
willing to
like
pay that
first,
price.
second round. I've seen a lot. It's
First, I think they are in the first, but I think second and third is where we're seeing, and then you're seeing guys that maybe not even have a job in the fourth round, which. Ooh. But anyway, it's my style. Tough. I don't, right or wrong, I don't have the cachet to pound my fist and say that's wrong. But I do believe.
Bold move.
I do believe that in the TGFBI, I won't. Well, that's a fab league, so it's not as bold of a statement to say I won't be jumping in, but I won't be jumping in closers that early.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The other question I had for you, and you mentioned it with like the fab, is when do you spend your fab? Like, do you try to jump on guys super early, or kind of wait for some of these guys later in the season to who maybe the prospects that are getting called up, that type of stuff?
All right, the canned answer is the team dictates. Emergency dictates what you want to do. But something I learned from Rob Silver, who won the NFBC a few years ago, and I used this in the TGFBI, is to decide how much you're going to need, like every week. $10, $5, $15. Now you can't really, not having been in it, you might, the first year in the TGFBI, maybe you don't know, but once you're in it and you see what happens every week, well, I think I need about $15 a fab. So off the top, I'll take 26 times 15, whatever it is, 390, and I just take that off because I'm going to need $15 a week for maintenance, for roster maintenance. So that leaves me, with whatever, 610, disposable fab income. So then it's just how much, now you're not going to use the 10 or 15 every week. So as the season goes on, your disposable, well, you lose some because you're buying players, but whatever you didn't spend a particular week. But that's you never, I don't, you're going to see some $841, someone's going to merge as a closer or an outfielder or something that's going to in the first week, and you're going to see some silly bids. All right, I got this player, I got him all year, but right now you have $120 left for the rest of the year. You now have less than $5 a week to maintain your team for the rest of the year. So that's sort of a tip I learned from Rob. And because I went kind of heavy. I want this guy $400. Okay, you do $400 twice, then you're down to $10 a week, and that's not so good. You also learn that
there's the maintenance.
yeah. So, but if I want a guy, if I have an opening, I will be aggressive early, especially in a mixed league, because I feel that I can get the $1 and $2 and $3 players later. ALN only is a completely different story, but I will be somewhat aggressive early if I feel if there's a need. And the other thing, just general piece of advice is, if you see a player out there early in the season that can improve your bench, go for it. Don't, I have a hole at the corner, I need to get if you feel there's a player on available for fab better than one of your reserves, you're going to need that reserve at some point. Upgrade it then. Don't wait, because by the time you need it, the what's left is junk.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I could talk strategy all day with you and try to pick your brain, but we should probably move on to AJ's got the next question here.
All right. So I guess the big thing then is, what are, with catchers, since we're going into catchers here, knowing that this is a 2-catcher league, NFBC, that is.
Yep.
I mean, how do you typically draft the catchers? Is this something that you want to really jump in earlier, or do you not care as much and just kind of wait around on it?
Let me just start. It's not a huge deal, but I I'm team 2 catcher. You're going to see on Twitter, why don't leagues, a couple of my very good friends are pushing the 1 catcher league, mantra to change fantasy. I'm a fan of the 2 catcher leagues primarily because the rest of the player pool has evened out so much that you don't, no middle infield scarcity. I don't want to say picking the best player every time. It has to fit into your lineup construction. But with multiple eligibility, et cetera, there's not as much strategy in the player pool as there used to be other than catcher. With catcher, you have to decide what you want to do. If it was down to 1 catcher, then the player is kind of equal to the rest of the positions. And again, we're back to kind of best player available within your team build. So I like the fact that you have to ask me this question. So, but I in a best ball, I'm all over the catcher. In the NFBC, what was the definition of porn? You know it when you see it, something like that. Wasn't like Larry Flint's trial something? For me, I don't know when I'm going to draft a catcher. I just know it when it happens. It's usually when there's nobody else that stands out that would fit my team at the time, or there's 5 guys that stand out that would fit my team at the time, and I know I can get one of them in the next turn. At that point, I will usually grab a catcher. And it's usually, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, somewhere. It's usually around that point, 10, 15, between 10 and 15, I'll grab a catcher. If I wait, I don't mind waiting. I don't force it. If I wait to the end, you have to keep in mind that everything's relative to the worst player at the position. The worst catcher's stats are terrible, but it's still relative to the position. All you care about is the stats above replacement, and you're not expecting much from your 22nd or 23rd round pick. So I don't, the catcher's terrible, yes, but my second baseman at that point is going to be terrible too, relative to the rest of the second baseman that are drafted. And one of the, air quote advantages of drafting such a late catcher is you can try to stream guys in. You can look for the guy who is emerging with playing time. The main catcher got hurt, and the backup is now the lead catcher. It's easier to replace a guy that you're expecting nothing from at the end there. So that's some people get one good catcher and then one really bad catcher. Another thing I'll try to do, I kind of mentioned it. I wish I had someone in mind. The pool just doesn't lend itself to doing it this year, but I try to get 2 guys that are kind of 50-50 maybe, and get get both of them. There's usually more. I'm looking at my list. There's just not a lot of teams that have that ability this year. There's usually more teams. I can find a team that used to be Kurt Suzuki and Ramos or whatever it was.
Right.
You know what? San Diego's an interesting. Austin Nola and Jorge Alfaro. Try to get both of them, because individually, where you get them, even though they're on the same team, they're going to give you what you're paying for the draft spot. But if one of them were to get hurt, the other goes wee. And or if Nola plays a lot of DH or something like that. So I try to find another Minnesota, Mitch Garver and Ryan Jeffers. Mm-hmm. Try to get both of those guys. You can do it to a certain extent with Elias Diaz and Dom Nunez, but it's maybe not as effective. And you can't say Arizona because Varsho's being drafted as a regular player. But I'll try to find a team where I can double tap. Maybe Seattle is Murphy and Torrens. Maybe that's a place to go and get both of them.
Well, how does that work with NFBC is weekly format? So like if you draft both, you can still only play one each week. I know you can swap them
play both. There's two catchers.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So those are your 2 catchers. I thought you were saying draft
stacking the deck.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were saying draft both of them and figure it out and then have your other catcher slot with somebody else. I got it. So those are your 2 catchers, and that's fine.
On the surface, like, why do you do that? Because you can't get a full, you're limited to the amount of plate appearances. Yeah, but if you draft a catcher in the 18th or 19th round, you're getting a backup anyway.
Yeah.
So the 2 catchers you have, if they're not on the same team, and then you do run the potential of having one get hurt and the other just going goofy. Even in a draft champion, if I draft, I don't know, Christian Vasquez from the Red Sox, I'll try to get Plawecki in the 28th, 9th, 30th, whatever, as try to back him up. Now you can double tap the Sandiego kick. Maybe you're close to the wheel and it's a 20th round. You could get Alfaro and Nola 20 and 21 or something like that. It's a way to approach it.
No, great stuff. That's again just something else I have struggled with when it comes to NFBC because I don't play in any other 2-catcher leagues except for that, and started about 3 years ago when I joined my first TGFBI league, and rude awakening.
Still haven't figured it out.
That's all I figured it. You're right. I definitely haven't. So let's move on here to catchers. As I said, we're going to be doing catchers and first base preview today. And so we got to start right off the top, man. Sal Perez had a monster year in 2021, hit 48 bombs to lead the majors and tied. Honestly, that's pretty unheard of for a catcher. So whoever had them just got a massive boost to their roster because that's not a position that you expect that kind of production from, not even close, in my opinion. What are your realistic expectations for him this year? And then to kind of piggyback on that, like, are you comfortable taking him at his current ADP and which is around 40? I didn't use NFBC because NFBC's, there is a little inflated for catchers because it's a 2-catcher league. So I found other ADPs. And so it's around 40 for the single catcher leagues.
And that's not far. I don't think that's probably far off.
It's not too far off. It's not.
That's not. Yeah. Now, in a single, we can talk single catcher leagues. In a single catcher league, I'm waiting to the end. Because most single catcher leagues are 10 or 12 teams. I'm waiting to the end because I'm going to take the 10th catcher, and he's probably going to be my 7th rated catcher. So that's just the way it is. That's just
I feel you.
People rank people differently, so you're going to get your 7th or 8th rated catcher at 10th. Now, all right, if more than one person's playing chicken, so I don't take him in the last round, take him in the second to last round, and I get my 6th highest rated catcher. So I'm waiting. I don't care who. Although again in best ball, I want that top catcher because the chance of a couple lesser catchers putting up the really good week and having him in your lineup that week, I prefer to just bank it with a top catcher, and then have the other positions. There's more likely, second baseman is more likely to run them a couple homers and jump into my lineup. So best ball, I am all about a catcher early. Otherwise, I'm gonna wait a bit. But Perez, it's a little bit anecdotal, but I mean he had some surgery. It was a shortened 2020. He may have just been fresher last year. He played a ton. He played a ton of games, and even more than normal. I mean, he played more games than a position player. You can't expect him to repeat the number of games, especially at his age. So that's just one thing. You can't expect him to repeat the playing time. Right. The power was justified. The power, his fly ball exit velocity. There was no fluke. It's just a matter of will he maintain the gains. I think he's got to give some back, and he's still one of my top catchers off the board. But I think there's just too much risk, and the injury risk, and your catcher goes down, you're replacing him with junk. Yeah, you can say that it's always going to. Bo Bichette goes down. I'm not replacing him with a star either, but the catcher replacements are even worse. So
they are.
I will not be into the Sal Perez. I don't even think that I will be in the J2 Realmuto. If Will Smith, although Will Smith's getting a lot of healing now because he's one of the DH guys that people are listing as someone to be aided with the DH. So I think Will Smith Will Smith could be the number one catcher this year if he gets to plate appearances. He's that good. I'm going to try to wait, and I'm going to try to get. I mentioned Vasquez. I'm try to get Jacob Stallings, who's just been real solid, well down the list. Yeah. But I'll just try to get someone that's solid relative to that draft spot.
Yeah. So
yeah, I had a follow up to this. I like Perez, but I'm with you. Like I don't see this return of a value that he's going right now. We probably won't even hit 40 home runs again. I don't think he's going to get to 161 games or whatever it was that he had last year.
That was just
but he does play more than almost any other catcher out there and he always has. Even when he was strictly behind the plate, he always played a lot more. But now they're throwing him back in DH. They're just using him every day. So
yep.
I still think he could, he'll creep into the 130 games, type of thing.
Oh, for sure.
Pretty easily. And that's super valuable. That's why I actually took him last year, but he was going at a huge discount last year because of coming off the injury. So it was kind of like, I'll take who could potentially be the number one catcher off the board in round 12 or whatever it was. Like, sure, thanks guys. Worked out pretty well. So
you're under 40 homers. Are you over 35?
I'm probably hovering around, like, if I had to put a guess on it, I'd probably go right around like 33, 34. If he could get to like 135 games, that's doable. That's probably
sure.
right. That's probably right around where he could go.
Yeah, I mean, he had 27 the year before he got hurt, so he's been in that territory before.
He even had 11 in 37 games the year that he got hurt.
So I mean, the elevated exit velocity, again, it supports it. Will he be able to? Will he be fresh enough? Will he be able to sustain it?
Yeah.
So that's the question. But yeah, I mean,
if they put him back at DH a bunch more, I think it's easily doable. But he's a good catcher though. So, all right, AJ.
Yeah, it's hard to take him out of that spot, because he is such a good catcher. He's a good game manager. I mean, obviously you want to have that bat in the lineup, but I cannot imagine them putting him in 161 games again.
You know what? I think KC's one of those teams where, depending on how many teams make the playoffs, if everything goes right, they could challenge for a wild card.
Yeah.
And I think you want Perez back
Definitely
there with that staff, the young staff, if they're actually challenging for a wild card. If they're not, I can see him playing a little more DH.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see his splits for the first half of the season, whenever that might be,
right,
and then the second half of the season, just to see if he does. He's going to be a huge benefactor for those pitchings. So I definitely like his upside there too, but he might lose a game here or there towards the end of the season, which unfortunately is playoffs for fantasy baseball, but you're not gonna lose that much for him. So you mentioned Realmuto and Will Smith here. So that's our next question that we have. They're the next two consensus catchers off the board, very similar ADPs. It sounds like you're leaning Will Smith. Is that who you prefer?
Heads up. I still might take Realmuto heads up, but I think Smith is going just a tad later. You know what? The heck with it. No, Will Smith. Yes, I will. At this point, I think this could be the year that Will Smith kind of leapfrogs J-Chill Realmuto in that, for that second. Used to be first catcher. For that second catcher,
exactly.
They both hit high in the order, but there is one. I don't know if you planned on mentioning him though. There's one other guy that could jump into that top five. That's Dalton Varsho.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you talking Varsho? Yeah, I mean, he can play all over the field too. So
it's who knows? There's playing time risk. There's a performance risk.
Yeah.
But especially with the DH, I had him as a fairly, close to a regular this year anyway. With the only, what if Alec Thomas shows he's ready? Maybe Varsho lost time. But with the DH now, I don't know. I mean, if we know he's going to get the playing time, now we're back to the performance aspect of it. And he had a really great September, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll carry over. It's a reason for optimism. but it's a leap of faith that he runs and hits like we think he will or can. But he's just an interesting guy to, if I'm playing one league, if I have one league, that sounds so blasphemous now. I don't know that I'm taking the shot.
Who does that?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We used to. But if, it's one of those you're going to hear a lot. Anyway, if out of my 20 leagues, I want some shares of Varsho. Well, who doesn't?
You got 20 leagues, of course you do.
Yeah, but if I have one league, that's the thing. If you're playing in one league, do you take the chance? It's a tough. I mean, some people think you need to take chances to win. I'm of the mind that you need to be solid to win, and I can, that's an argument, and that's an NFBC argument into itself.
Yeah, I mean, we preach consistency nonstop. With football, with baseball, it's not really different. Yeah. And especially with this position that can be so volatile, you really need somebody that's going to be consistent. Me personally, I do like going for one of the known quantities, but it depends on my team build. And if I'm really happy with my team, and then other people are just like, screw it, I'm gonna jump the ship. Okay, I'll let them do it, and then I'll wait around, and then just keep building. So that's kind of how I look at it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Smith overtake Realmuto this year as well. And it hurts to say that wearing a Phillies jersey, but he's getting up there. He's been a solid player for a lot of years now. Good. And we saw that with Buster Posey, and he's now retired. So I don't know if the only thing that would lean me more towards Realmuto is if something came out where he was going to play more first or play something, he might play more DH, just to keep his bat in the lineup. I could see that happening.
I think people are overestimating. I don't know, whatever, overplaying the Realmuto and Smith DH card because they played a ton anyway.
Yeah,
so I think they're adding too much playing time. I just think some of the playing time behind the plate get shifted to DH, get shifted to first base.
Exactly. I think that's going to be.
Who's the current backup? Garrett Stubbs is who we got listed for Philly. So in other words, they don't have a backup catcher right now. So I think a lot will depend, and I think that might be a telltale sign. Do they bring in a Kurt Suzuki? Do they bring in somebody with experience, or do they bring in just a journeyman glove man, which means Realmuto is going to be behind the plate a lot?
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say, I think the big difference between and the reason why we saw Realmuto be so high, years and years ago, and probably even just last year, right? Is, he's great bat, has the power, steals bases as a catcher, which is not, not a lot, but you're getting, that's just like a bonus.
Still,
and his batting average was always fairly high. That's starting to drop, and I think that's where I go. Now he's into the territory of batting average with Will Smith. And at this point, I kind of think Will Smith might have more power than Realmuto at this stage of their careers.
Smith's on the upswing.
And so that's where, unless you think you're getting, 12, 13 stolen bases like you did last year from Realmuto, but he hadn't done that since 2016.
Philly hasn't run that much.
I think it's easy, not easily, but I think that's where Smith gets the slight edge for me. And I did just redo my rankings today, and swapped Smith and Realmuto in my rankings for that exact reason.
So for 4 years, he averaged 137 games without the DH. How many a regular gets 150, right? You get a sort of days off. So you're adding 10 extra games. You're adding 40 or 50 plate appearances.
I wouldn't even say 150 is normal. I think it's less than that now.
Well, right. But at the point being, he was averaging, and this is when he was 25 to 28. He's now 32 or 31. He was averaging, like I said, 137 games. So even if you add on 10 games, 147, 40 or 50 plate appearances a ton. But people are, they're talking as if he's going to get 100 more.
Yeah,
So I think that's what we have to be careful.
I know. That's a fair point. That's a totally fair point. Last question here for catchers is, you talk about waiting for catchers, and so when you wait for catchers, you kind of fall into a territory where it's a lot of younger guys with upside.
Well, they were in
right?
there, yeah.
And so, the guy that popped out for me and AJ initially when we were writing this was Joey Bart. Right now, Posey's gone. Bart was a huge name years ago. He was a big prospect, right? Kind of not really shown up quite yet, but hasn't had a whole lot of opportunity. But really, I think his star has fallen. But there's other guys, right? There's Ruiz. There's, you mentioned Varsho. There's Kirk. There's Rushman that is getting a lot of hype this year. Who, if any of these guys, let's take Varsho out because you already mentioned him, and I think you like him. So Ruiz, Kirk, Rushman, Bart, any of these guys you're comfortable drafting as your, say, a single catcher?
Ruiz, just because we know he has a job.
Okay.
Now
Fair.
you mentioned Bart. I talk about, was it Philadelphia, their backup. I want to see what San Francisco does.
Right.
Because this is a team that still fashions themselves as well. They should, competitive, trying to win the division again, 108 games, whatever it is they won. Do you trust Joey Bart to be your lead catcher, or do you go out right now? They got Kirk Casale as the backup. Do they? I guess I kind of answered my own question. I mean, they have, as I say, if they bring in a Casale type, I don't know who they could bring in, especially who's available, to sort of make you say, you know what, maybe Bart isn't going to be the guy. But if they do bring in another, established MLB player, that may be a hedge for Bart to go back down or not play as much, especially because now there is the DH. Although San Francisco will use it, they've got plenty of options whether they like to play Stratomatic. But Ruiz has a job, and there's no reason for Washington not to use him. And Ruiz has got pretty good contact plate skills. It just will he develop the power, right?
Yeah.
Will he develop the power? Will he develop the bat speed and the torque to put the ball out of the yard? I think so. I think he's safe. And Rushman, people are drafting him as if he's going to be up early. I don't know if he will. Kirk, you still got Danny Jansen. Danny Jansen, but there's somebody there. So I do like Ruiz.
Yeah, I think Ruiz has the big lead out of those guys. I think Kurt's got a lot of upside, but he's battling. So yeah, I agree with you 100% there.
Yeah, I think Kirk's moving up some boards and whatnot, but again, Jansen's not a slouch. He's not like, a no-name backup or starter, or split time.
He's had slouchy stretches, but he's also had he's also had stretches of mediocrity too.
That's true. Yeah, but what catcher hasn't? I mean,
yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the first base position here. We got to start off with Mr. Vlad Jr. I mean, there was a lot of talk last season, or coming into last season, I should say, that Vlad Jr. might be a bit of a bust. Yet here we are. He tied Perez's league-leading mark, 48 bombs last year. I mean, do you expect the still just 22-year-old first baseman to continue his upward trajectory, or do you think that he's more of a candidate for regression this year, back to the pre-2021 Vlad that we saw?
All right, so a couple things. First, I don't know what the circles I was in. I didn't hear a lot of Vlad bust talk, but that's again, we running different circles, different type of games. I don't think I heard a whole lot of Vlad bust talk, but that's fine. Let's see. Number two, I'm kind of a stickler about when I talk about regression. To me, it does not mean play worse. Regression is when you got lucky or unlucky, things out of your control, and those metrics regress to the norm. a BABIP, a home run per fly ball. So
Yeah.
that doesn't. There's certain
And
areas
that's
where
kind of
Vlad
what
could
I'm
regress,
looking
though.
at. Yeah.
There are areas in which you could use, in my nerdy stickler term, regress for Guerrero. Now, but I think that the key with Vlad is he began to lift the ball. Always made solid contact. Always made a lot of contact. He's now lifting the ball, and I see no reason that he's not going to continue to do so. Now, you can continue to grow and not hit 48 homers again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can continue to mature, get better skills, and just end up with 42 homers. Is that that's not a bad year. That's just variance. So
that'll be okay.
Regression.
I think he will continue to mature as a player. He liked the way he lost a little weight, started to take care of himself, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he continued to mature as a player, but it just may not. He could hit 52 homers. He could also hit 40 homers, and it doesn't mean that he's any less or more of a player. So I do think we're going to continue upon the positive trajectory. I don't think we've seen his best season yet, but I'm not calling 48 homers his baseline either.
Yeah, I think it's hard to use that as a baseline because it's such a incredible number for what we've seen. You mentioned his BABIP, and he was at 308, 19. Dropped all the way down to 282 the following year. In the shortened season, but then he was right back up at the 313. So he's kind of in line right there. The big change was his ISO. That's just been creeping up every year. So I think that's a big sign for him to keep growing. Again, I don't know if I would see 48. It'd be nice, but I'm not counting on that. I'm not going out drafting him for 48 homers last year, and I may not get him because somebody might be doing that.
And they are. He's going like number 4 right now.
People are doing it.
4 or 5 overall.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily afraid to take him in the top 5.
It depends. This is a completely league contextual thing too.
Yeah.
In a points league, he could be the best player. Well, Juan Soto, but in a points league where you get points for walks and you don't, and you lose points for strikeouts, he walks a lot. And he doesn't strike out, right? And he has volume. He's a compiler. So the runs, RBIs, etc. So I do points leagues. I do points league standings. I should have taken a look. We're talking Rasball. I think we're talking off air. He could be a top pick in Rasball because it's a points league format. Although you know what, I should temper that because the Rasball system emulates 5x5. So in the ESPN and the Yahoo and the CBS and in the Fantrax scoring, it wouldn't shock me if Vlad's one of the top players.
Yeah, could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I like Vlad this year. I'm pretty sure I won't have any shares of him just because in that first round, I love the power he's going to give you, and I'm not sure he's a 311 batting average type guy, but I love the power and the counting stats, the runs and the RBI you're going to get from him, but no speed. Like if I'm going hitter in the first round, I kind of want to get somebody who can give me a little bit of both. And he's not, so that's the unfortunate part. So I tip the scales to like a Jose Ramirez if I had to choose between the two.
Right, but there's a lot of people who rightfully agree with what you just said. So you may be looking at Vlad from the 8-hole.
Yeah.
And now it's
Yeah, it's like
if he falls that far, I might do it. But
you may have and maybe I take Marte on the way back or Cedric Mullins or insert your stolen base.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I've done a few mocks though, and he hasn't fallen past like 5. So
depending upon what format it is you're mocking.
Yeah, we're doing like TGFBI mocks right now, and he's going super early, so that's like an NFBC type format. He's going pretty high up. So just beware. That's what's going to happen, at least from what I've seen. Yeah. So
maybe
this guy here, we're gonna go down the list a little bit in the rankings here, and we're gonna talk Jared Walsh. I mean, he had a really pretty much a breakout, 2021, 29 bombs, 98 RBI, 277, 340, 5-9 slash line. Although he's still only going as the 15th first baseman in drafts. Why do you think that is? It feels like it's pretty discounted.
I think that there is some. They're looking. They can't sustain that BABIP. He didn't have the prospect pedigree to that. I mean, it's first base. This just put that into consideration. But I'm not sure because I mean, looking at my numbers, I have him ranked right around the ADP. So I'm kind of with you. That I'm kind of agreeing with the market. But there's also a pretty good number of first basemen. He sacrificed contact for power, and that's always a risk because if you keep the contact but you lose the power, then you lose the contact. You keep the poor contact and don't generate the same power. You're doubly bad. But I think there's a trust factor, and I just think that he hasn't done it for long enough that people are trusting because there are players at the position that have done it for longer, and there's just too many. Here we can get true regression with Walsh. So let me see where I've got him as the 14th first baseman.
All right, so you're right on. I just looked. I have him at 9. I just plugged in my numbers and I didn't do my audit through it.
But this includes everybody who is eligible. So yes. You may have Jake Cronenworth ranked somewhere else. You may have Ty France ranked somewhere else. You may have LeMahieu ranked somewhere else. In which case, he now moves up.
LeMahieu's in there. I got LeMahieu a little too lower. Because I do my rankings with Fantasy Pros. I use whatever eligibility they have. And I think they do like a consensus between like ESPN and CBS and Yahoo and NFBC.
Well, I'm saying these guys are eligible at multiple positions. So
they've got the multi-eligible guys. Like I've even got Realmuto in here as a first base.
Okay, I'm just curious because I mean that does affect things. But I mean when if you're ranking by dollar value, there's no difference between a 15 and a 14. I mean he's. You can move him up 3 spots, and it was 50 cents worth of production. That's one homer. That's one. It's 2 RBI.
Thanks.
I mean, looking at then it's the question: who above him? If you're going to rank him up, who do you drop down? Right? I mean,
that's where I think even if I'm looking at it, like even if I want to put my own spin on it outside of just having the numbers crunch themselves and spit out the rankings, like I'm looking at him like. I don't know if I trust Chris Bryant, LeMahieu, Josh Bell. Like, they all have their warts, right? Like, and so Walsh is a guy who I kind of like, and I might just keep him there.
Isn't he kind of like the bottom of the tier too?
He is totally. Is.
I mean, you put Mancini in, Mount Cat with the fences. Who knows at this point? But he's kind of like the last one of that, not stud tier, but you know what, pretty good player tier.
Yeah. 100% agree.
So you mentioned Mancini there. He's actually next up on our board here to talk about. I mean, he had an awesome first half last season. Kind of tailed off a little bit in the second half, but here again, this is a guy who returned to baseball last year after missing the entire shortened 2020 season to recover from colorectal cancer. We didn't quite see the same career best production that he had in 19, but he posted numbers that were very similar to his 17 and 18 seasons. So do we think that based on what we saw from him in the first half of last season can carry over and we can see him that, really transition into taking that above and beyond this season?
Well, you mentioned 19, right? That was a happy fun ball year.
Yeah. Sure.
So a lot of players showed, had a career year. So if you temper that back a little bit, I think he's kind of the same player, the consistent player that he's been.
Yeah.
And the fact that he, as you suggested, was able to do it after missing so much, and not just missing time,
No,
going through what he was going through.
Yeah.
The standing
Difference
ovation
from
and opening
taking
day.
a season off to that.
So he's solid. He's a solid compiler. The question now is, how much is he affected by the fences? How much is the team affected by the fences being pushed back in Camden Yards? All people are talking about is losing the homers. Well, you're going to gain hits. So, I think, it's not going to be a complete trade-off, but I think we're forgetting that the extra room will help batting average. But, he's, I talked about, dropping off of tiers. I'm still, Mancini to me is, the top of the next tier. I'm fine with him. I liked it better when I had first base and outfield eligibility. That's neither here nor there, but I'm fine with him. And I think he is what he is. And, even with, skills like, we talk about projections being ranges. Well, skills are ranges too. And I think, with the same skills going to show a little bit different outcomes. And I think his baseline is this, you mentioned 18 and 19. I think kind of the same player.
Yeah.
So you've got him ranked like what, in the top 15, 16?
I think he was now going back to that list. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he was. Okay, I've got Stevenson, but I didn't adjust for the catcher, so get him out of there because he's worth more as a catcher. Yeah, I mean, he was basically. I had Mountcastle and Mancini essentially the same, and they were both probably ahead of Walsh previous to the fences, and it's just a guess as to how they're affected.
Yeah,
with the fences at this point.
Yeah, like I get it. The Orioles offense, as I have all my Orioles stuff back here, is not
Your
great.
shirt.
So it's a Baltimore shirt, man.
But the
I see
top
that.
of the order,
It is nice. The very
top
top
of the
is
order
nice.
is not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
When Santander and Hayes, and we mentioned Mountcastle. Hopefully, Rushman could be there. So I mean, the bottom is not very good.
No.
I mean, Shed Long is not, Rognit or Door.
No.
Although he might be my favorite player for other reasons, but
Odor.
yeah.
Oh, okay. You like his left cross.
Yes.
Yeah.
We always joke about it. You have the picture, AJ.
But I mean, so Baltimore's top of the order to me, is solid. It's just you're going to get down to the bottom half, and you don't want.
Oh yeah.
You don't want Henser. Well, Alberto's gone.
Well,
But you know what I
that's
mean.
tough though, because I think when your bottom part of the lineup is as bad as the Orioles is going to be, I think it reduces the number of at bats that Mancini's getting. But
that's true.
by a few, so that does limit his upside a little bit.
But
It limits his counting stats slightly. I say counting stats. I would say runs and RBI. This is what
Understood.
I do.
But you're
But
drafting.
I do like him. And he's a super discount player.
That's the point. You're getting him commensurate to his draft spot. If he was playing in the Red Sox or in the Toronto or New York, he'd be getting 12 more RBI and 10 more runs and be drafted higher.
Yeah. And look, like if you look at like just even last year, like I went back and looked at it because I was actually kind of shocked that he only hit like what was it, like 20 something bombs, 21 last year total. I was like, man, I thought he did way better than that. Yeah, his first half he has 16.
Yeah,
he just kind of fell off, and you kind of wonder.
Home run derby.
Well, yes, that, and also, yeah, maybe a little bit of that, but also just a year back from cancer, like it's just long season. It caught up to him, type of thing. Maybe a little more than others, and so, hopefully, another year removed from that is he can put it all together. And at his ADP, I'm totally all in. So,
one of the things I look at.
Homers?
One of the things I look at. You mentioned 21 homers. So in 2018, he had 23 doubles and 24 homers, so he had more homers. Mm-hmm. In 2019, he had 38 doubles and 35 homers, just a few more doubles, fairly 50-50. But last year, 33 doubles and 21 homers tells me that it may just be that the direction of 5 of those doubles, if it was a foot higher, a foot left or right, would have been homers because the proportion is different.
Right.
So he may. And I'm looking at the expected homers. According to my numbers, he had expected around 23. So was he shortchanged a couple? Yeah, probably. But I think that 21 is a little bit on the low side, and I've got him, similar at bats and 24 homers this year. So we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I'm low. My friends at RotoWire and my friends at Baseball HQ have him for a couple more. So, yeah. I need to change that now.
Yes. And ranking.
Yeah, Stever's got him for 25. I know that. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the rest. But yeah. All right, AJ, you can move on.
All right. So the last question we have here, and
That was my question. My bad. It's your question, though. You do it.
It's my question because it's stupid,
silly,
and quirky, but that's the way I got to go. So we got to have a little bit of fun with the show, and we'll go ahead and say, with your wardrobe in mind, we'd like you to select the late round flyer first baseman with the better all-around upside by telling us which color socks you're wearing. If they're white, clearly you like Andrew Vaughn. If they're red, you prefer Bobby Dalbec.
What if they're black? I like Shoeless Joe.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not sure if part of the silliness is you guys know I'm a bona fide, card-carrying member of Red Sox Nation or not. Now, you specifically said upside.
Yeah.
Now, was that? I mean, that was by name. If you specifically want to know upside, it's Dalbec, and there's no question.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we were thinking, and
but you can elaborate however you want.
Yeah.
I mean, Vaughn's playing time is probably safer. We don't know exactly what the Red Sox are going to do yet. Are they going to bring back Kyle Schwarber? Are they going to sign Suzuki? Although the latest report had Suzuki going elsewhere. Is Dalbec going to be a platoon player? The one thing I'll mention about Dalbec is everybody looks at the strikeout reduction in strikeouts over the second half. If you go even deeper, he handled breaking balls and off-speed pitches much better in the second half, and he did it with a strikeout drop, and he hit them with more authority. Now, this was coincidental with Kyle Schwarber coming to town, and there's a lot of anecdotes about working with Schwarber, but it's not just people are saying, well, he can't sustain that level of strikeouts. Well, if you look at the reason why he was handling breaking balls and off-speed pitches better, he was maybe recognizing them better, learning how to pick up the spin, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that's a sustainable skill change.
Yeah.
Now, whether you keep it at that level, probably not. But I do think that's a sustainable skill change. So I'm optimistic that Dalbec, is adjusted. As you guys know, it's a game of adjustments, not pitchers are just back, and we'll see what happens. But to me, it's going to be the playing time. Is he going to play a little third, little first, little DH, move around? What are the Red Sox going to do when they finally are able to do things again? They could bring in an Anthony Rizzo. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. Yeah. So playing time right now, Andrew Vaughn has a better lock on it, but I think Dalbec's upside is huge.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at 25 homers last year in 133 games, but only 453 at bats.
Like 20 of those were like when the All-Star break on.
Yeah.
Well, that's an exaggeration, but yeah.
But it's absurd. Like, I mean, he took it, put it all together, and then went with it. So I agree there's going to be pitchers that are going to have to, revise what they're doing and how they're going to throw to them. But based on what we saw last year, I don't, think he would be one to just fall over with that and be like, oh, well, now they figured me out. I don't know what I can do. He's going to continue to change what he needs to do and adapt to what pitchers are doing to try to adapt to him. I think, the average definitely hurts you, but, how many people punt average in a 5x5 league anyways? So.
The other factor is, again, playing time. Tristan Casas, I shouldn't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry,
I was going to ask about him, yeah.
he's sucking on helium, and I don't think Jared Duran showed slow the roll, but at least to Red Sox Nation, if he's ready, where is Dalbec going to play? Is there is going to be a roster crunch because everybody thinks Rafael Devers is going to move over, and who's going to DH or JD Martinez, So that to me is the key. If they do nothing, there's playing time for Dalbec.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they're going to do nothing.
There's too much talent down there to not. To do
well,
nothing.
I think one or two moves, and they're right back in there. Right back challenging for the division again. People forget how close Red Sox were to being in the World Series. At one point, everybody had them in there again when they were crushing with the grand slams against Houston. But then things obviously didn't work out. So then people forget how close they were. Now the stars need to align again. They need to get better. But it's going to be now. You asked about cases. I don't know. A young kid. He just he's another of those guys that if you draft according to the videos you see on Twitter. He's probably in contention with Vlad for the top first baseman. But we know that's not the case, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we finish up, we have a question from one of our writers here, Fantasy Six Pack, Connor. Do you think Fantasy League should add a DH position? So I'm assuming what he means by this is guys who are only DH, or not only, but have DH eligibility. So actually play the position, or bat the position, I guess.
Yeah, we've been talking about this on Twitter, I don't know if it's on Twitter on the Roto Junkies website. I don't think it's necessary. I'm not horribly against it, especially in a league with two utilities. Maybe you have one catcher and two utilities, or maybe you take away the fifth outfielder and you make it utility, or maybe you make corner and middle just to be infielder and add a utility.
Yeah.
We went through the number. We went through the ALDH, not the DH only because there's only 4 or 5, but guys that have had 20 games. You could easily draft a DH that played 20 games. Now, if he were to get hurt, there may not be so many guys available, but all you need is 5 games. I don't think I'm not going to quit a league if my commissioner makes the change, but I'm not going to be the guy pushing for the change either. In a 2 UT league, I may push for it though.
Yeah, I like the 2 utility leagues, but I don't know. That's an interesting one. I haven't looked at the numbers to see how many guys would actually be DH eligible to start off the season.
Not a lot.
Well, no.
It'll be way more now.
Well, it will be.
No. There's a difference between DH only and DHL. You need 20 games at DH.
Yep. Right.
And there's a ton of guys that got 20 games at DH.
Yeah.
So you can easily fill the position. Now, the DH only is a different
Not
story.
DH only, but DH eligible.
Right.
I think is what
if you make it a position, you need 20 games. So I think it's viable. The reason it's coming up is because of the NL and the DH.
Right.
But it's viable. It's not. I don't know that it's something I'd push for though. But I'm not going to push back. I don't have a reason why it's dumb.
Yeah. Maybe we can just be those old people. We don't like change. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
I know you're just kidding, but Tout Wars, which I'm part of the board, I kind of brainstormed 3 or 4 or 5 of their major changes, from the norm. So I know you're just joking about change, but I like change, but I don't like it for the sake of change.
Yeah.
I like it if it improves the game. One of the changes we made, you mentioned utility, in the AL and the NL only, we took the 5th outfielder and we make it a swing man where it could be any hitter or any pitcher. So you could go 13 batters and 10 pitchers in the only leagues, not in the mix, but in the only leagues. It's just because the reserves got to be so horrible, but the pitching was still pretty good. So I think that's a great move for only leagues.
Especially for streaming 2-start pitchers. I feel like you could cash in or you could really hurt yourself at the same time.
Yeah, but you're costing yourself a batting spot. But if your guy's hurt, I mean, there are weeks, I don't know if you play a 12-team AL or NL only, where you go to the waiver wire because it's not like the corner infielders stink. There just aren't any corner eligible players to pick.
There's not. I've done one or two, and it's rough.
There's no one that's even eligible, so it's not. He's lazy. Why do you have a 0? It's an industry league, and you have a 0 this week. Well, it wasn't because I was lazy. It's because there's no one I could pick up.
I just didn't have anyone.
Yeah. All right, Todd. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Not thank me for coming on the show. As we circle back to my stupidity in the beginning, but let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, and just promote whatever you want to promote.
Oh, you can find me at Twitter at Todd Zola, TODDZOLA. I talk a lot of baseball. I don't answer a ton of questions. I do that on the Masters Ball forum. So if you have a question for me, I know I'm old school Luddite. Get off my lawn, go to my forum. I write for RotoWire, write for ESPN. You can hear me on Saturdays on SiriusXM MLB Network Radio, not the fantasy channel, but MLB Network Radio. And soon you'll be able to do the switch over on Sirius, and we're going to have baseball, knock on wood, but I'll be back on Sundays, and
Nice.
and there will be other days that I will be on doing Sirius as well. We're finalizing the schedule, but I'm going to be on some weekdays as well, probably Monday and Tuesday.
Great.
Awesome. Sweet,
Looking
man.
forward to hearing you, man.
appreciate
I definitely listen in my car. That's like my favorite channel when my rest of my family's not there. they don't like it. I do though. But all right, thanks again for coming on, man. It's great information, great discussion about catchers and first base, and obviously all the NFBC stuff in the beginning. So have a good night, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, gents. Have a good one.
All right.
All right,
Thanks,
see
bud.
ya. All right, AJ. I think that's it. My dog just came running down here, and she desperately needs to go outside, apparently. So I gotta bounce. So we're just gonna close it. See you guys next week. We got second base, and I don't know who the guest is right now, so I'll have to look it up later and let you know. Just check it on Twitter. Peace.